other fascinating cultural news, you have Starbucks being sued for discrimination, again, for racial equity policies that were recently rolled out. Now, this is also coming off the news of a recent lawsuit where they fired a manager by the name of Shannon Phillips. Now, they fired her basically for being white. It was a situation in which you had two African American gentlemen walk into a Starbucks store. They weren't buying anything. And I believe they wanted to use the bathroom as well, which in terms of social and cultural acceptance is ridiculous. If you don't buy anything, you don't deserve the bathroom. It's not their job to be a public facility. That's why a common courtesy my dad told me when I was a kid, if we were on a road trip and even if the car didn't need gas, we would buy some type of drink or beverage from a gas station, convenience store, because sometimes even if it's just owned by a mom and pop or a company or a franchise, whoever owns it, they still deserve compensation for you utilizing their facilities. It's a common courtesy. You help each other out in terms of supporting the business, and they're providing a service. Now, in this case, they claimed that they were waiting for a meeting, and it got pretty heated. They had to call the police because they wanted to kick him out. And of course, it was perceived as racism, because nowadays, our founding fathers to be spinning in their graves, everyone is talking all about racism. Ridiculous, beyond all belief. I find it abhorrent. I'm one of those folks where when my family came to the United States from Cuba, it's one of those things where we always just like founding fathers, judge a person by a man's merit, by his actual actions, not where he came from. What are his morals, values, and actions? But I digress. In this case, Starbucks freaked out. The CEO actually shut down the stores for a sensitivity diversity training day. And the trouble started to occur when they started intervening with this specific store. Now, she was actually the district manager for many stores. Now, ironically enough, the store manager for that specific store was African American. He was not punished for this situation that went viral and had a big backlash. But she was told by corporate Starbucks to punish employees who were white. Now, again, that's quite literally the definition of discrimination based on race. And fascinating enough, this recently came out. I didn't see a huge backlash. I would have thought there'd be more people fascinated because in terms of legal precedents, this is perhaps one of the best known recent cases where you have a successful lawsuit where someone is discriminated for being white. Usually those are washed under the rugs or whitewashed, pun moderately intended. Now, this recent one comes from Starbucks being sued after implementing quote-unquote racial equity policies that were actually recommended by a legal firm that is associated with former President Barack Obama's former Attorney General, Eric Holder. Now, one of these articles is actually thanks to the Free Beacon, and they dive in with a little bit more of the details here. Now, it looks like Eric Holder's firm was charged as much as $2,295 per hour. Oh, geez Louise. Another thing to be always concerned about when you're ever touched with a lawyer, their time is quite valuable. That is astronomical. Now, in terms of their actual assessment, they had Starbucks come out to this legal firm. They asked them for advice on what could they be doing better. Not if it was legal, but what do they suggest? Which is fascinating to think a legal firm recommended this when, in fact, is pretty much the definition. Right, it is illegal. Now, it looks like they're actually also looking at tying executive pay to diversity targets, setting spending goals for quote diverse suppliers unquote, and launching a mentorship for quote BIPOC unquote. Okay, I need to check Urban Dictionary. What is BIPOC? And I'm actually not being sarcastic. I forget many of these. Okay, that is Black, Indigenous, people of color. Couldn't be people of Cuba. So racist. I'm kidding, obviously. Okay, so it says they have program, which again, mentorship programs only for them. That's racist in it because you can't exclude. They're excluding multiple races and multiple people from having the opportunity to apply for that scholarship. Now it looks like they're having a couple of these lawsuits come up against them. And interestingly enough, this is pretty widespread, and I think we're going to see more and more of these cases boiling to the surface. Now, they say that through its, quote, racial equity audit, quote, unquote, practice, the firm actually continued rubber stamping race-based initiatives for its clients, including BlackRock, Citigroup, and Verizon. So this legal firm with Eric Holder has had perhaps some of the most successful, prestigious companies in the world hire them as well. And it'll be interesting to see, are they going to be sued as well? Now, granted, they also have more money than you can possibly fathom, so you could certainly pay off and sell outside of court. So, fiscally speaking, this is not going to have a dent on any of these companies, just to be forthcoming. In terms of why I'm fascinated with is, will it be a cultural shift from a consumer perspective where some consumers are maybe frustrated or they feel alienated because these are coming to the surface? And a lot of these programs, they're just many of them are illegal. And you actually have some, with BlackRock, they had minority-only scholarships at BlackRock, and they actually had a bonus scheme linking executive pay to diversity targets at Verizon. And again, diversity is great. Diversity of opinion is even greater. And it's one of those things where you're also excluding people based on the race by de facto. So that's where, when you look at the cultural perspective in the lawsuits, that's what they're going to be arguing, is that you're discriminating other races and you're excluding them from this, and they do not have an equal opportunity to these programs, to these scholarships, to these types of positions. And we'll see. Well, do you think, let me know in the comments, do you think their revenue is going to go down? Are people going to start boycotting them? I mean, most of these companies are already doing it. Or will consumers be overwhelmed and just feel like they can't boycott them because there's so much? I think the Bud Light boycott was successful because it's a very, very specific brand and everyone can see it, and the competition is 3 inches away in the freezer, or more accurately, the refrigerator section of the grocery stores. That is very, very pretty simple. Some of these larger companies, depending on where you, like Verizon, for example, depending on where you live, that may only be the only telecom provider or internet provider for your family, because some of those companies, especially telecom internet companies, they divide them by geography. Some might say that it's anti-competitive or more like a gang because they're agreeing not to compete, but another topic for another time, perhaps. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by the end of August, so I greatly appreciate you taking the time to click that button. Also, if you take the time to like and comment, that helps us grow and develop as well. Really appreciate the feedback that I'm getting. Also, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.